Okay, so what I wanted to show you really quickly is two different ways that you can remove backgrounds from images. As you can see in a situation like this, if I have this image that I want to use, like this motorcycle up here, and it has this white background to it, and my poster has a different color background, it doesn't really look that great to have this big white border blocky background to it. Same thing can be done with this motorcycle down here. Depending on the program that you use, the steps that you take to remove the backgrounds are different. With the software that we're using, I want to show you how to do it in Poster My Wall, and I'm also going to show you how to do it in Pixlr as well. In Poster My Wall, basically what you do is you select the image. You can tell that the image is selected because I have these handles. And off to the side, I get these menus that pop up. I want to click Erase Background. And basically what this does is it gives you this magic eraser that I can then click, and what it's doing is, if you can see, it's looking for the contrast between the background and the foreground, and it's erasing, as long as I don't go past that crosshair, it's erasing just the background. Now as I get onto this light gray, you're going to notice that it's going to start erasing some of this light gray. It's pretty good right here. It just erased a little bit of that tail. It's good on the wheels. Again, I just got to keep those crosshairs off the darker contrast. Erase up into here, down into here, loop around. Now as I get to this gray, it may erase some of that. Yep, you can see it's erasing some of those highlights. Which for an image like this, you know, it's kind of inevitable when you have a tool like this. So I have most of that gone. I can then just now erase the background. I can make the brush size larger to get more of the background quicker. And get some of this over here. Some of this down here. Okay, so I have most of that now. I'm still missing this part in the middle, so I'm going to shrink down my brush size some, and I can zoom in as well to really kind of get in there. And that's just about as good as this is going to get for a quick video. The longer you spend on it, obviously the cleaner it's going to look. I'm going to click Done, and you're going to see now the background is pretty well erased. It has a little bit of a blur to it. That's kind of okay. It looks much better than it did before. Now I'm not stuck with that big white blocky background, and I can use this image anywhere. The same thing goes for an image like this. You're going to have to spend a little more time and be a little cleaner with it, but the process is pretty much the same. You can zoom in and just use this magic eraser, and it'll look for the contrast between the background and the foreground, and it will erase just the background for the most part. If the foreground, see he has some dirt on his helmet, so since the foreground is matching it a little bit, it's gonna not do as well of a job just picking out just the background. But for a tool like this, it does pretty well. So I'm gonna just erase some of that. I'm not gonna do the whole thing for this. I'm gonna say Done. And once this loads up, give it a couple more seconds before I cancel this out. Let's cancel it. But you kind of saw that that's basically the process that you have to go through to do that. I think the reason why it froze up on me was because I didn't erase the whole background, so it had a hard time trying to pick and choose what to get rid of. But that's how to do it in Poster My Wall. The other way to do it is through Pixlr. Now in Pixlr, there's two methods you're going to take. One is for an image like this that has a solid background and high contrast between the background and the image. This is actually very easy to remove a background. What you're going to do is off to the side here, you're going to select this magic wand tool, And the tolerance you should be able to leave at a lower number. You can bump it up a little bit. The higher it is, the more it'll pick up. But since this is a solid white background, you can kind of leave it. I'm actually going to bump it up a little bit because when I click, it's going to select all the white. And you can see kind of these little ants marching, showing what's selected and what's not. You can see that these areas in the shadow aren't really selected. So I'm going to deselect everything, so nothing's selected now. I'm going to bump this up a little bit and click again with the magic wand, and you'll see now that it picked up those areas down here. Still missing a little bit on the tire, but that's okay. That's not all I really need it for. Make sure that you don't have a little lock here, that your layer isn't locked. If it is, just click onto the layer, and once you see that check mark, that means that you can edit this layer. I'm going to click delete on my keyboard, and you'll see that it just cleared all of the stuff that was selected, which was pretty much all the background. If I deselect again, you'll see here's my image, and the background is pretty much gone, and it was very fast and it was very easy to do. Now, in order to save this image so I can use it in Google Slides or in another program and still keep this transparency, what you need to do is you need to save it as a special file type. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to say Save. You don't want to save it as a JPEG. Notice that the background is still white. JPEGs don't have the ability to save transparencies. You need to either save it as a PNG file, so you can tell right here, transparent, full quality. GIF files also save transparencies. So I'm going to click PNG. You're going to notice now it's keeping that transparent background, and I'm going to say OK. And now I save that image to my computer. Now if I were to use that in another program, that background is going to be gone. So let's say if I were to go back to Poster My Wall, and I added, and I'm going to upload that PNG file. I'm going to say open. You can see that there's no background. So that carried over between the programs. So you would use Pixlr if you wanted to remove the background in a picture that you were going to use in another piece of software. Now, what happens in Pixlr if you want to remove a background but it doesn't have such a simple, let's not say that, it doesn't have such a simple background? Well, you can do the same kind of thing that you did in Poster My Wall. You can use the eraser tool, and what you'll do is you'll zoom in a little bit. You can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in, or you can adjust this little slider here to zoom in and out. And if you keep this brush as this one that kind of has a blurred edge, what you're going to do is, this isn't really the cleanest way to do it, but for our purposes and as emerging designers, this will kind of work for something like this. It's kind of like the quick and dirty way to get this done. You can just trace around the outside of the image, and the blurred brush will kind of keep some of the details in there. It's not going to be perfect. Photoshop has much better ways to do this, but like I said, for our purposes, this will work well enough. And it's just a matter of tracing around the entire image and then erasing the rest of the background. And you can increase the brush size if you want. That's way too big. And you can kind of get around here, and you can shrink it down to get into the details of the image. Same thing, when you're finished with it, do File, Save, and save it as a PNG file, and that will save the transparencies of the image. And that is it.